No. Okay, thank you.
Hi.
You have to tell him I said hello to everybody.
Yeah. My daughter said hello to everybody.
Hey.
Hey,
The George, like I think I emailed everybody, he fell in the hospital and they kept him in the hospital 4 or 5 days. And I saw him in the hospital last week and he said he was awful sore, but they couldn't find anything broken or anything. So they took him back to the nursing home, but his son been staying with him at night because he keeps getting up. But he's got an alarm on his bed, but by the time they get there, they're afraid he'll fall. So I talked to Nancy yesterday. She said, other than that, he's pretty good. They're just scared of what he'll do. But other than that, he's all right, I guess. But when I was with him last time, we talked about a number of things. So his mind's coming back pretty good.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
Yeah. We can't see you, Hammy.
Pardon?
We can't see you, Hammy.
Can't see you.
Well, I turned it on for a second, and then it goes. The video goes bad. So
Go psychedelic.
There,
yeah,
there you are.
there it is.
With a
Yeah.
few lines to your face.
So, yeah.
There's half your
Yeah,
face.
well, it's funny if you turn it on, it's fine
Must be that
for
lake
just,
weather.
yeah, something like that, Pete. Yeah, it says
You
here.
got to pay your internet bill.
Is
Hire an
that
engineer.
doggone,
You need to hire
John?
an engineer.
I knew there was something wrong.
Pete, you got clipped on the last part of your report about George. Would you mind telling us again?
Yeah, he's other than his balance, when he tries to get up when he probably shouldn't, he's a little stubborn about stuff like that. And other than that, his mind's coming back pretty good. Yeah, he didn't make the best decisions because he tries to get up when he shouldn't, but
Yeah.
we do that when we're normal.
Wow.
Well, that's really unfortunate, isn't it?
And Nancy's doing fine.
Good.
I think she's going to go out for a little while this week to visit some people.
Good. Good.
She's been in to see George with her. I don't know if she's driven much, but her
They're
stems are
keeping
well.
him. They're keeping him in the rehab center.
Yeah, they're he's in rehab, but he'll be there for quite a while, I imagine.
Really?
Because he'd have to get his strength back and there's enough balance that he can handle stuff, walker and stuff.
Well, it's cold up there right now, so you don't have to worry about driving trucks and tractors.
No, well, it's 50 degrees today, so that's pretty good.
Oh,
All right. That's
We've had, I think, the 5th warmest January. We're supposed to have a real cold winter, so I'm kind of worried about February now. And we're 10 inches behind on snow. And that's using the modern years when we haven't had much snow except 1 year in the last 10 years. Climate change.
You know, Pete, I've been thinking about you and George recently because we've got a course being put on here at our community on the Dust Bowl. And it's not really a textbook, but Steinbeck's book, The Grapes of Wrath, which a lot of us had read decades ago, we reread recently, and it just paints such a horrible circumstance that those people went through and what they had to live with, that it just shivered your timbers. You know, it literally gets to the point where there was no money. People didn't literally have a nickel or a dime in their pockets, and they lived in horrible circumstances. And when they finally reached the promised land of California, where they all hoped to be picking grapes and peaches and oranges and all that sort of thing, a few $100,000 already gotten there, and the Californians didn't want them. And so they ended up in these Hoovervilles, they called them, because President Hoover was in office at the time. It's just an incredible story. So I can highly recommend, if you have the time, reread The Grapes of Wrath. It's quite a story.
Good idea.
Yeah, I just finished a book yesterday that I got for Christmas, Dynasty. It's the Belichick Brady New England Patriots book.
Oh,
And
really?
it's a very interesting read, and it doesn't really matter whether you're a New England or a Belichick or a Brady fan. It talks about the purchase of the Patriots. Robert Kraft did originally, and then a lot of the politics of when they were trying to get a team in and out of St. Louis, and the money that was behind that, and then it goes on right up to 99, or excuse me, 19, and it quits there. So it doesn't talk about when Brady left and went to Tampa, but it's an interesting read, and the psychologies of the two principals, Belichick and Brady, are very interesting to read about. So if you're looking for reading materials, I'd recommend that one.
What did it, what's the bottom line on the relationship between those two guys?
I'm sorry, speak up again, Bernie, you're a little way.
What is the bottom line in terms of the relationship with the two of them? I'm sure they respected each other, but is there any insight you have about how close they were?
They were not close at all. They were adversarial, except from a business sense. Brady recognized that Belichick was a great coach, and Belichick accepted the fact that he had to have Brady on the team to win, and in order to keep Robert Kraft behind him. But Kraft, although he was the owner and a very strong hand in the whole thing, walked that delicate line of not telling Belichick nor telling Brady what they were going to do. He let the two of them work it out.
Yeah, just watching, on the screen when you see them, it looked like Brady and Kraft did have a very warm relationship.
They did. They were very close. Kraft brought Brady in when he was just out of college, nothing, and supported him and took him under his wing as a son. And they were very close. Their families were very close, and still are, from what I hear about Brady in Tampa. But Belichick's a different animal.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's interesting speculation that Brady might end up back there again.
Yeah, after reading the book, I find it very interesting that there would even be speculation that the two of them might wind up together again.
Sounds like they won't, from what you're saying.
Well, I think it will all depend upon who Brady sees as his receivers and his offensive line. And if he thinks that he could pull together another Super Bowl, I think he'd go there. But I think definitely he's out of Tampa.
He's allowed to be on Social Security before he quits.
That's right.
Yeah.
You think he's out of Tampa because the personnel there just aren't up to it?
Yeah, I think that. And I think, I think the team isn't up to it without the Gronk there. He's really handicapped, and he doesn't have the team to support where he wants to be. So I think he would probably just hang up his cleats at this point if he thought he had to stay in Tampa, but he doesn't have to stay in Tampa. There are a lot of teams that would take him up on a one-year contract for a lot of money.
Sure.
Liable to be another George Blanda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He can't kick, though.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And who was the guy for the Browns that kicked for such a long time?
Groza.
Groza, right. Groza couldn't even see the ball when he put it on the tee anymore because of his belly. He had to back up away from it.
And his brother Alex Groza played at Purdue.
Right.
Oh,
He played.
And was it
Dave
Groza?
Gibran.
Was it Groza that had his kicking shoe had a squared off toe on it?
Yeah.
Oh, that was Dempsey out of New Orleans.
Dempsey, New Orleans.
Yeah, he kicked a 60-yarder and set the record years ago.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hey, well, let me bring you up to date in terms of what I know about the chapter situation. They've had infractions all the way back to 2017, and not serious. You know, the rules in all colleges are you know, my interpretation is some of the university executives have been sued legal action against them in terms when there's a death or something serious happened to someone, you know, in terms of how they enforced alcohol, particularly in fraternities. And then, of course, the fraternity headquarters of the different fraternities, they're under the same kind of pressure. And that's why the pledge training has been reduced to 5 weeks. And and then the pandemic came. And I think all of that, so they got rules where you can have alcohol in the house, but the rules don't make a lot of sense in terms of the chapter house can't buy the alcohol. Remember, Valorous used to buy our alcohol for our Friday night beer kegs. So the chapter house can't buy the alcohol. Only people 21 can bring alcohol to the party, and they're limited in terms of how much alcohol per you know, they can bring. And there's and they have to register it. And if there's a non-registered function and there's alcohol there, that can cause probation. And so the situation developed where some of the over time, some of the actives, I guess, just think that the rules are silly and they haven't been real careful about following all the rules. So there have been these infractions which haven't been serious, but they've been regular since like 2017. So what really put the frosting on the cake, and I'm very personally upset about it, is they had a dinner, the pledges. I went down and talked to the pledge class last homecoming weekend, September 24th. Good group of guys, and the actives very sharp. They're very sharp young men, but they had a party with dates and alcohol for the new initiates that one of the juniors arranged. Now, it wasn't in the house, it was off premises, but so everything went okay, nothing, you know, bad happened there. But one of the girls that was at the party was over at another fraternity house later in the evening, or with another fraternity group later in the evening, and they did have a problem. And she was one of the people interviewed by the police, and they asked her, where were you earlier in the evening? And she talked about being at this dinner with Sigma Chi's. So that's what, and they were already on probation. So this kind of set off the alarm bells. And, you know, why they let that happen. And allegedly the consul and the Magister didn't know about it, and that they did this on their own. And which I find, you know, if they didn't, they sure as hell should have. So anyway, Nationals involved, universities involved. This coming weekend, and also Gavin Phillips, class of 95, has put together a group to reestablish the traditions within this. Over the pandemic and all, a lot of the traditions that, you know, we grew up with, learned in the semester and a half pledgeship, you know, during the pandemic, 2 years of the pandemic, most of the upperclassmen did not live in the house. So Gavin Phillips has a group, and they were there for a weekend in December that I understand went very well. They took it into committee, you know, into groups like Ritual and House and I don't know, Education, Academic, whatever. So the first weekend went well, and they're going to have another weekend in February. But this coming weekend, National, excuse me, National Fraternity is going to have a individual review of every member of the fraternity, and they're subject to deactivation. And what the deactivation will be is they'll have to move out of the house. They'll have 30 days to move out of the house. They won't be allowed in the house until 2 years after they graduate. And they don't have to go through the interview, but if they don't go through the interview, they're automatically in this deactivation status. So the people doing the interview will be 2 grand praters from other provinces. Let me stop and see if there are any questions so far.
No, we follow you.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. So I had lunch with the consul, lives about 15 minutes from me up in the Chicago suburbs. So we had lunch the week between Christmas and New Year's. And for the second time now in 3 years, they've elected a sophomore as consul. And that's part of the situation too, I think. The upper, the juniors and seniors aren't taking their normal leadership role. Well, this guy, his name is David Colehouse. He is really sharp. He is sharp in the Krannert School. And he's of a mind, and I support this, he's of a mind that if guys aren't going, I told him, you're either going to be a hero or a GOAT. And by GOAT, I don't mean greatest of all time. And how you handle, your tour duty here coming up, because they cannot stand to have any infractions. They're on serious probation, both by the university, by the IFC, and by international. So, and he understands that. And so he's got a good approach. He's not gonna try to be a one-man enforcer of anything. He's gonna get a group of leadership around him that will be, administering the chapter during this period. And he's gonna tell the guys, particularly the upperclassmen, that, look, if you aren't gonna follow the rules, deactivate. And, we have a future fund that if half the house moves out and deactivates, we can get through it financially. And then build the chapter with Gavin Phillips and his team with the culture that we've had for 100 years, 150 years. And, turn some new pages. So, some very interesting times ahead.
It's hard for us to comprehend that it's reached that state because we can only relate to it by our experience. At least most of us, Bernie, you've been closer to it, but it's hard for us to understand how it could have evolved into this state of affairs.
I agree.
Now they're pointing the finger very strongly at the upperclassmen, though.
Yes. And there was a Zoom call with Tom Hall, the president of the House Corporation, and the parents and the students. And Bill Fry got the link to it. Yeah, I think it was Bill Fry. Or no, Tom Canfield. I'm sorry, it was Tom Canfield, Bill Canfield's younger brother. He got the link by mistake. He had asked for some information about what's going on. So he tuned into that call, and then and what he said is there were some upperclassmen that said, well, this whole thing's a bunch of crap. The rules don't make any sense. There's no reason to be following these stupid rules, that sort of thing. And some of the parents were evidently backing up. Anyway, it wasn't a smooth call. But Tom Hall, president of the House Corporation, he's on board with what has to be done. And so anyway, we're going to have the consul and the House Corp chapter advisor fly down to Florida for our luncheon on February 9th, and they're going to be our speakers. And I plan to video them, and they'll take questions. And and I really, I'm hopeful because I was so impressed with the consul, and I've had a couple of conversations with him over the phone since then. And he's got his head on right. He knows what has to be done. Now doing it will be a challenge.
Well, Bernie, I recall back a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, I believe, I say we, all of us, you were promoting how strong the consul was at that time, and I don't recall his name, but I would probably recall it if you'd remind me. Where, if he was such a strong consul and they had such a good house, then how did it go downhill so rapidly?
I think it was the pandemic coupled with the 5-week pledge. You know, the 5-week pledge training just went into effect a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been the downfall. There's no pledgeship. There's no people helping each other and learning to do things as a group, and then they can kind of go off on their own if they want to. And the fact that the seniors don't live in the house is a terrible thing.
Terrible. Most of the seniors don't live in the house anymore.
No, that's all over campus, those sororities and fraternities both.
Right. It's not just Sigma Chi.
I would wonder if it can't be just Sigma Chi. I mean, this has got to have affected Phi Gamma and Phi Delta, all the rest of the houses. Are they all in the same shape?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, I had an experience similar to this. My nephew was a Sigma Chi here at Michigan State, and they had real serious discipline and drinking issues. They lost their their charter. They lost the house. It's a Phi Gam house now. It breaks your heart. I mean, to see this happen.
Yeah.
And you know, to think that 202 could end up as something else, it just blows your mind, you know.
Well, let's face it, the way these kids grow up today compared to the way we grew up is a hell of a lot different.
Yeah.
They don't understand the discipline and responsibility that our parents thrust on us.
Yep. Discipline for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine my parents backing me up if I said, "Oh, that's a bunch of crap," you know.
Right.
Geez, they'd been all over me like ugly on an ape. So
Yeah, I can imagine my dad backing me up, but it would not have been to support him.
that's exactly right.
Backing me up against a tree somewhere.
You're right.
Yeah.
We need to reinstate the draft, fellas. We need.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're right, Robert. I think 2 years of that'd be good for everyone.
I'll tell you, I think it would solve a lot of problems if some of these young folks would get the discipline that the military provides. But even the military's kind of gone off the deep end, I think.
Right. Yeah, get this guy Millie, and what an idiot.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yes.
Yeah.
Bernie, what's
and with
the attitude, or what are you hearing from National?
Well,
Are you in any contact with Kroc? What's his feeling?
I'm mostly email contact with Kroc. He is really busy. I don't know what he's cooking up, but he is really busy these days. And as far as I know, he knows about this situation, I'm sure, but I don't know that he's gotten involved in it at all.
What's the feeling from National, though? Are you getting any reading out of
Well, I
anybody?
talked to Mike Church, who is he's the Bill Brigham of today. You know who Bill Brigham was when we were in school, the executive secretary, whatever. Mike Church, and I know Mike pretty well. And so I'll tell you, there's a good chance that we would have lost the charter if it weren't for the strong alumni involvement that we have at Delta Delta, with both the university and with International. So Mike is supportive, and he's supportive of having this chapter review. he thinks chapter review is important, and I agree with that. We need to get the bad actors the hell out of there. Or I shouldn't say the bad actors. These are all sharp young men, but those that aren't just those that won't follow the rules. You know, when I talked to the pledge class, I think I told you this on the last call, but I started out asking to go around the room and for them to say their hometown, their major, what interested them in the fraternity system and what interested them in Sigma Chi. And it went on, there were 25 of them, it went on for about a half hour, but these guys are articulate and sharp and they're in serious majors. They're either in Cranard or one of the engineering disciplines. I mean, it's a sharp, and the undergrad, you know, the actives too, they're all sharp. I met a guy, I mentioned this too, Bill Bowles' grandnephew, Brad Bowles, and he's a Queester. He's going to be a senior next year, and he's a Queester, and sharp guy, and he was Rush chairman, and what these Rushies said, or what these pledges said to me that day about what interested them Sigma Chi is more than half of them said that when I went through Sigma Chi Rush, it was different than any other Rush because they were interested in me as a person and they talked about values. And so I talked to Brad Bowles about that, and he says, oh yeah, we had a lot of meetings, you know, among the chapter, the actives before Rush, emphasizing that that's the way we wanted to do Rush. So, you know, I think it's a good group of guys, and I think Gavin Phillips, he's really sharp. He was with Minnesota firm, Scientific, Boston Scientific, maybe it's a Boston, I don't know. He was with them for years, and now he's gone off to another firm. But anyway, he is class of 95, which is a good class. And so he's really committed to this culture change initiative that he's got 20 guys, 20 alumni to sign up for. You know, spend weekends there, however many weekends it takes. So I think, you know, the path is, you know, you've all experienced this. Sometimes things have to be really bad before you take the action to get them straightened out. So this obviously is building, but the pandemic and short 5-week pledge. Oh, let me tell you another incident story here. Now, I don't remember that when we were in school, this was the case, but today, and Gavin Phillips tells me this, it was in 1995. No, Phil Steele, he was class of 77. And the ritual said that within 30 days of initiation, the new initiate would have to recite to the consul or the magister the charge, and either the great aims or one of the founders' presentations in the initiation ceremony. And that wasn't the case when we went through, was it?
No,
I don't remember it.
No, well, we'd remember that. So anyway, what they decided to do way back when Phil Steele was there was that if you didn't do it within 30 days, they took your pin away, and you didn't get your pin until you said this.
Wow.
I don't know how many there are, but now of these actives, maybe as many as half of them can't wear the pin because they haven't done this memorization exercise. So Phil Steele sent me a page out of the ritual that, because I challenged this memorization requirement. So Phil Steele sent me a page out of the ritual that lays it all out. But it says that you cannot take the badge away as disciplinary, as penalty. And so I talked to the consul and I sent him that page out of it. And I said, hey, you know, you got to follow the ground rules. Those, you cannot use that as a discipline. And you got to get these badges back on these guys before the before you have those reviews. So anyway, he's, I don't know if they'll get the badges back on me. He's got the first review. So he's going to explain, whatever the situation is, he's going to explain it to the interviewers. And they're changing, they have to change the bylaws. This is in the bylaws of the chapter. So they've got to go through some kind of routine. It takes a few weeks evidently to get the bylaws voted on and changed. And so what they're going to do is, I forget what he said the penalty was going to be, but it's you know, it's not going to keep them from wearing the badge.
Who
I think we
votes on
should-
the bylaws change?
Pardon?
Votes on the bylaws changes.
I'm
Along,
sorry, what?
so who votes on the
The chapter.
bylaws changes?
I think the
Just
active,
chapter?
active chapter does. Can't hear you, Harry.
I think, well, don't you think the alums should have input to it?
No, I don't.
No, I don't either.
I think it's the actives. I think it's up to the alums to provide the guidance.
Yeah.
But we've got to step back. They've got to, if you will, I've heard this expression earlier.
But the
Made their
bylaw,
bed, they've got to live in it.
the bylaws have to reflect, they have to be in concert with international's guidance. So I think the alumni's responsibility is like me pointing out to the consul that, hey, you got to correct this. But then it's up to him and the active chapter to correct it.
All right.
I think we should appoint a special prosecutor. This thing isn't talk about a circle jerk. I'm telling you, this is terrible. I can't believe it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God. Oh,
Well, I'm of mind that alumni should play a role, particularly the more recent alumni, in a guidance capacity. It shouldn't be entirely left up to the actives, the inmates, to decide how they're going to run the prison. There ought to be a little,
That's what this Gavin Phillips initiative is. He and 20 alums, and they're younger.
everybody is.
That's for sure.
I should temper my sharp response to Harry when I marked a no, should the alumni write should the alums write the bylaws. I think the alums should have their heavy influence, but only by our example and our leadership, and not by our force of withholding dollars or threatening to come down Thor or whatever. The guys that are active now have to make their own rules, but it's up to us and our kids. These are our grandkids that we're talking about in college right now.
Yeah.
I think we have to provide that guidance, and it needs to be pretty strong, but I think you get to the point where you have to just stand back and say, well, I tried, I did the best I could.
You didn't have enough fire drills.
I wonder how this is going to, what we can do when we get together. I presume we're still getting together in Lafayette next September.
Sure.
It brought be a sorority house, but then
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, that's okay. We can still go if it's a sorority house. We're old.
Hey,
but not
maybe
that
we
old.
maybe we could stay there instead.
That's right.
Yeah, I haven't gotten our group situation. They wanted me to wait till February to do that because
Good.
they don't want to go, they don't want to go too far ahead on reservations. But anyway, everybody here on the call is gonna be there. We're gonna come in on,
Planning to.
Yep. Yes.
everybody, yes, come in Thursday, Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Trishman, I talked to Trishman and he couldn't be on the call today, but he also said, I told him I'll give you a ride down, and he said that he just cannot do it. He cannot travel. He's on a walker, and he cannot sit for more than an hour, like to drive anywhere. I said, we'll stop for coffee once an hour, But so I don't think we can count on him. I'll continue to work on him, but then if any of you want to call and encourage him, but it doesn't look like he'll come. Stern, I'm pretty sure he'll come, because he and John may fly into Chicago and drive down with me. So,
Ollie, I
pardon?
think Kurt committed.
Yeah, and Kurt, right. Well,
I talked to Lambertus about 3 or 4 weeks ago, just before Christmas, I guess. And he expressed an interest which I would classify as something better than raised eyebrows. But, well, you see,
who is that, Bob? Who?
Lambertus.
Oh, Lambertus. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
You said he did come back for the Shortridge reunion.
He did.
So
Yeah,
he remembers where Central Indiana is still. But he sold his business, that UPS packing store, early, like 2Q last year. And so he is just trying to adjust now to not being 24/7, the one-man show for 33 years. But I think maybe if some of the rest of you would maybe try to give Cy a call, be good to see him there.
Why don't you send out his telephone number?
I
I
did.
don't have it.
He did, yeah.
Oh, you did? That's right. You did.
I hope you got it.
I've
If you
tried to
didn't,
call him. I've tried to call him a couple of times, and I can't raise him on that number. But I'm going to keep trying.
I sent him an email, never got an answer.
Well, the email is at the store.
no,
Hammy.
he
And so
Oh, okay.
he does
So he
not.
got-
that's what I was told anyway.
No, he does
No,
not
it
use
is.
his email at all. He does not use his email. He will answer the phone. No, the email belonged to the store, and he claims to have absolutely no technical knowledge as to how to get to it.
I can relate.
Did we set dates?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's September 9th weekend.
September 9th. Okay, yeah. I didn't,
It's a
Okay, got
it's a non-football weekend.
gotcha.
Have you blocked the rooms at the union or not?
No, they want me to wait till February to do that.
Really? Okay.
So
Hey,
when I
Bernie.
do that, I'll send out an email, and each of you'll have to, call in to get your individual room, but it'll be in the Surge's Getter block.
Bernie, can we jump back to that earlier conversation that you were reading us in on the status of the chapter today? Is there anything among these 6, 7 creative minds here that we could put together that would be helpful to the house in the short time that we're going to be there? Is there any kind of meeting or conference, or I don't think suggesting that we share a keg is probably the right way to go.
No, but one of the things I thought about, and, see if I think the council might be, well, we'll see. But I thought we might, in the Great Hall, there'll probably be about 10 of us there. And we could get up by the fireplace and each of us make some comments and then open it up for Q&A. Maybe on a Saturday afternoon. Have lunch, and then after lunch, do that.
We probably ought to have a little.
Think
We
about it.
probably ought to have a little structure to that, though, Bernie, and not just
Yeah.
It can't be random. I think maybe like if, for example, this isn't this might not be the right thing, but like, what did Sigma Chi do for us? How did it help us in our careers, in our business careers, or whatever? I don't think they particularly want to hear about what we did in our business careers, because it's old hat now.
Sure. Yeah.
But what did Sigma Chi, what did pledgeship, what did the brotherhood mean to us as we went through life?
Yeah.
And attest to this is the fact that we still get together once a month. And everybody I talk to that's in the fraternity is absolutely blown away by the fact that we still Zoom.
Yeah.
And that we still get together and have had reunions since the beginning of time. So I think those are the kind of things we should talk about.
Well, George, would you and Bob Pusey be the co-chairman of the committee to put that agenda together?
Okay, all right.
No, because George and I can't get along.
No, that's a great idea. Great idea. I think.
George always wanted receipts for everything and I didn't have receipts.
I think if we lay out, what we're going to talk about, that might get a bigger audience among the actives too.
Okay.
Think about when we were there, let's say pick the year 1956. And a group came back for their 65th reunion from graduation. That would have been what, the class of 1891?
Oh, Jesus.
Huh?
Civil War veterans.
Think about that.
Literally. Yeah.
They'll show up just out of curiosity.
Yeah. Wouldn't we be interested in what these guys who graduated in 1891 had to say about, Sigma Chi back in the late 1880s? And
I think one thing we ought to do, is sharpen our memories on the words to some of the Sigma Chi songs, and we could sing together.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I
just to show,
guarantee you that it'll be the
Kurt,
first time
lead
that
it.
some of them have
Kurt,
heard those
lead us.
songs.
all the better. Well, there's our leader.
Hey,
Hey,
how about we teach them the lyrics to Loopy or something like that?
And you all remember from o'er the rugged mountains standing
Sky.
Hi, Kurt.
beneath the sky, our alma mater
But you're gonna have-
calls. We can.
We
Oh.
cannot fail. With
you're gonna have to send out the words though.
Yeah, Dolores, obviously, they don't need us to construct an agenda.
help us.
Hemi, that was a visiting team for the opening football game in 1955. And our pledge class had to learn the school song and sing it from the bricks.
Oh, yeah, we had to do that every home game.
Yeah,
Well, and I remember, and I've told this story to a number of people. Obviously, this is well before computers and the availability of information. And so when we played the College of the Pacific,
yeah.
that was a real challenge to find the words to their fight
That
song.
was those were the
song
words.
I was just singing.
That was
That
it.
was
He
their
was just
song,
singing that.
College of
Yeah.
the Pacific.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know who or how they found it.
Libraries.
I remember those.
Found it at a music store in Lafayette.
Yeah, I think
Seriously.
you found it, Kurt, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I found it.
Yeah.
Well, dig it out.
So I'm looking for it now. I think I've got it. There's somewhere.
You really?
Yeah.
You're carrying
From
around too
o'er
much
the
baggage.
rugged mountain standing high, from o'er the broad low valleys neath the sky. Our alma mater calls, we cannot fail, with voices raised in praise. Pacific hail, Pacific hail. I found it.
You're carrying around too much baggage for.
Yeah.
Put it back in the
There
file.
it is.
That's terrific. Yeah, no, that's a great idea, Bob and George.
Okay.
And I think, it might be fun to take another trip up to Hazelton because if the garden is finished, because some of us have contributed to that garden fund, $202. But a lot of the alums, Delta Delta alums have contributed to that at the George Ade home. They're gonna put the garden back in, so it'd be kind of fun to go see that. But we've got a little bit of time to plan for that.
Well, I think that Kurt, as our former illustrious leader, ought to be the one that leads us in the songs that we sing. So Kurt, why don't you search through your files and come up with 3 or 4 of the appropriate songs that we could sing for them.
Okay.
That's a great idea, John. How about 1 or 2?
Well, if any of the actors do the song, they'd be welcome to join in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we find something that they've ever heard before.
They probably can't do Hail Purdue.
Yeah, George, your sons were Sigma Chi's. Did they sing and do some of that
Oh.
stuff?
No, they did not. And I mean, they didn't even have a house. They had a suite in the dorm at Wake Forest. None of the fraternities had independent homes, fraternity houses.
Yeah.
And you lose a lot when you don't have your own place.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't sing. They just didn't do that.
All right.
And my son-in-law was the consul at Beloit College. And they didn't sing either. They drank a lot of beer, he said, but they didn't sing much. So,
Yeah. Well, my grandson was a Sig at Ball State, and they did have their own house, but they had the same thing with the underclassmen being the officers, and the upperclassmen were the hellraisers and tore up the house and, had parties and broke furniture and all. The consul was a sophomore. The magister was a sophomore. So I see that same thing in what you're reporting from Delta Delta. It's not a good thing.
Not good, not good, no, not good.
Yeah, if we could show them the kind of cohesiveness that our training, our pledging, the activities we had to go through as part of the pledge training, and the consequences of that, how we've formed this bond that has lasted over all these years. It just show them how we're all together and how much we valued the time together and how we became real brothers.
Right, true, yeah. Yeah, real brotherhood. Okay, well, why don't we go around the room for the good of the order? John Andrew, you want to start us off?
Well, life down here in Tucson area, actually Oro Valley, is good. We're having a little bit of winter. I can look to the mountains to the east of me, and that's where Mount Lemmon is, which, by the way, is named after a woman, Sarah Lemmon, who was a archaeologist and botanist that she and her husband explored the area, so they named the mountain after her. And the name is spelled Lemmon. It's a 9,000-foot mountain, and it's got a nice cap of snow on it. So although we can sit down here and look at the cactus and the environment we have, we can look 5-10 miles to the west, and here's snow-capped mountains. Life down here is good. We're still in good health. Neither one of us has had any COVIDs, although a number of people we know here have had various degrees of seriousness. We just have a very active community here, and we try to take advantage of it. One of the things we enjoy is the Tucson Symphony, which is a really top-notch symphony orchestra. And we went to a concert just last week that they had a group called Pink Martini. You ever heard of them?
Yes.
Pink Martini started in Oregon in '94, and they are an international music performance group. They sang and performed songs in 8 different languages.
Wow.
And they are superb musicians, and they were backed up by the Tucson Symphony. And it was just a wonderful evening of entertainment. So that's one of the things we enjoy doing here. Speaking of books, any of you familiar with the name Hillerman? Tony Hillerman?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's a writer of murder mysteries that take place in the Southwest, centered around the Navajo Nation. And he's created a couple of very well-known characters. Well, while we are sitting here doing this, his daughter, Ann Hillerman, is at one of our facilities here giving a talk about how she has carried on the tradition of her father. So Hillerman books are very entertaining. If you want a good read about the Southwest and learn something about the Navajo Nation and language and culture and history and all, I highly recommend them. That's about all I have to say. We're going to go over to Las Vegas in a few weeks to visit Cherry's son, who lives over there. Going to do a camping trip up to the Utah border in March. And anyway, life's good.
Great. Harry Thompson.
Well, life's pretty good here too. It's a little lonelier for a couple of weeks. Melanie left yesterday for Phoenix, and she takes her mother out there every year and stays a couple of weeks. I don't want to go out there this time of year, so she'll be coming back sometime in early February, I guess. And then I'll go back out with her and stay a couple of weeks. That's best time to go to Phoenix. And John, if you're going to be around, we'll give you a call. Really like to come down and see your new place.
Yeah,
It's
just
only an hour and a half.
stay in touch. We're gonna be here most of the time, but just give me a shout with as much advance notice as you can.
Yeah. And the other thing nice happening here is my daughter, who lives in Santa Barbara and is the world's biggest Chiefs fan, literally, is flying into Kansas City to go to the game. I don't have tickets, but she has them with a friend. And I'll meet him for brunch or lunch or something. But she is really excited about it. And she goes down to Los Angeles in that new stadium and sees every time the Chiefs play there, she goes down to see the game. Things going pretty well. Bad weather, but you get over that.
Thanks, Harry. Zeus?
We had some good news a few days ago. My granddaughter, Charlotte, who's at East Lansing High School, has been accepted at Purdue in the engineering school. So the tradition goes on for our family.
Great.
So she'll be there in the spring, and I think she'll be there in the fall. She's been accepted at Michigan State and Michigan and Ohio State and Miami of Ohio, but I think she really wants to go to Purdue, which is great.
That's exciting.
What's that?
That's exciting.
She's technically, she's really strong, very good. From an organ recital perspective, I had a hand surgery. I had trigger finger in my left hand, and I had to have surgery on this middle finger here because it get locked up, and that can be good in some cases, but it can be dangerous in other cases. So I had
a hammer.
I had hand surgery, which worked out fine. Let's see. That's about it. I was going to ask Harry. I was talking to a friend of mine, George Scadron. He was at Purdue when we were there. He was a Sammy. I went to grade school and high school with him, but we were talking about girls and people that we knew, and he mentioned Ty Schmidek.
Oh,
Really? What's she doing?
Schmidt was a pie.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I said, well, Harry Thompson, this fraternity brother of mine, dated her. Where did you date her in?
Our senior year, almost all of our senior year.
Oh, in college at Purdue.
We were pinned.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
And I saw her one time about 2 years after that. I met her in Baltimore when she was a stewardess for United, and I was the Quantico. So I drove up there and we drove back to Indianapolis, stayed at her parents' house, and that's the last I saw her.
Oh, my.
she had a brother named Don, didn't she?
Yeah. Well, I ran into her when I was on maneuvers at Camp Irwin, California. I went in to see Stern and spend the weekend at Stern's house in Manhattan Beach, and we went down to Pancho's and Cisco's, these two bars that were in the neighborhood, and all these United flight attendants were in there. Ty and Margot Chevalier, two girls that were in my grade school class. It was really something else, but those were the good old days anyway. We're doing fine. We'll be leaving for Florida in about a week and a half, and we'll be down there till the end of May, and at our place in Ponte Vedra. And other than that, like my George's cardiologist said, he said you shouldn't complain about anything. He says half of the people your age are dead. 25% of the people your age are really sick. So he said, you're doing pretty good. So he's dead right about that. So.
Thanks, Zeus. Hey, Fuse.
Yeah, everything's pretty good here in Indiana. I try to see George every week. I missed this week. I had too much going on. Most of you remember my brother when he was council the
Yep.
first semester, and I think Jim Combs was the second. Jim's still alive, by the way. And we had a great dinner last night with my brother and his wife number 5, and one of his granddaughters, and then his son and their wife, but his wife. We had a great time, but kept me up late.
Does that mean
Yeah,
9 o'clock?
Yeah, about 9:30. They didn't leave till after 9:30. But things are going pretty smooth. I'm still working on some of Jane's estate stuff. It's been 7 months now, and insurance companies are a little slow. But everything else is going pretty good, working on taxes. So I'm busy with paperwork. I still go to Y 3 days a week and try to keep my legs working a little bit. And other than that, things are going all right.
Yeah, I
Going
read,
Purdue to the
I read in the Wall Street Journal this morning that Mitch Daniels might run for senator.
Yeah, I've heard that too, but he hasn't committed to anything because what Jim Banks, a congressman from Indiana, is going to run for senator because the senator's running for governor, Baird, and it'll be fun. Every time a political party calls or something, I say, well, when you're a statesman and not politicians, I might give money. That shuts them up pretty quick. But everything else going pretty good in Indiana. We get through, supposed to have a pretty bad winter, but other than Christmas, we haven't had much. But the cave got through the 30 below all right. Wind chill factors. But it's kind of nice to be in the cave at times.
Thanks, Pete. Bob Busey.
I don't have much to report that we haven't already covered. Shirley and I are both in really good health and hope to stay that way. We both stay pretty active, and we're looking forward to, seeing our families after their winter, one in Tennessee, one in Indiana. So we don't go up, then the others, of course, in Missouri. Wintertime is no travel time for us, but things are great here. We still love it. Thank you. It's good to talk to all of you.
Hey, Kurt.
Well, Sandy's right now at the county meeting on zoning. For a change, the state of Florida put some money into special needs. We have Sarah, who's 55 years old, and they appropriated $5.3 million. And so Sandy's been working on that, and I've been working on it a little bit. We bought 15 acres, and we're gonna build a facility that'll handle 120 special needs adults. But we have to get the zoning first. And that, I don't know how much of a problem that's gonna be, but it's dragging everything down. In the meantime.
Is this a live-in or just a visit?
This is, there'll be adult day training for 120 people, and there'll be homes for some of the people. And you may surprise you, but I set up a cruise for March.
Oh, really? Geez.
Icebreaker.
Oh, shucks.
I'm shocked.
And it's going out of Tampa, and it's going in the Caribbean. And I also signed up for a cruise. My son and two of his friends invited me to go on an 18-day cruise out of San Diego, I'm sorry, San Diego, to the Hawaiian Islands and back. And So that takes place over the Thanksgiving weekend. So I signed up for it anyway. So in November, I'll go with three people, and my brother may go too. So we may have 5 people going.
Nice.
Have you ever been on an icebreaker cruise?
No,
You better try it, I think.
How is Bill, your brother Bill, is he feeling okay?
he's still having trouble, but he's determined he's going to go to Indian Wells. You know, he was a tennis coach at Lindenwood for probably 10 years. So he's determined he's going to go out there, and he thinks he's been getting better. So he's going to try this, and then if it works and he can travel, then he may go on this 18-night cruise with us to Hawaiian Islands.
Good, good. Well, I hope that works out. Yeah. Okay,
Speaking of a boat cruise to Hawaii reminds me that when I was on the LST, our trip to Hawaii was 10 days long just to get there.
Well, this is 5 sea days to get there and 5 sea days to get back.
Right.
And then we visit all the islands, and we're 2 nights at Honolulu, which is what my son wants, because he wants to see all the World War II stuff at Honolulu. I understand the Missouri's there in addition to the Arizona, and there's 2 more ships that you can visit.
Oh, there's a lot to see.
Yeah,
Yep.
Pearl Harbor is an interesting place.
Mhm.
yeah. Well, Mary and I are doing fine. We came down to Florida 2 weeks ago, and we'll go back north in June. We have 5 grandchildren, 4 girls and a boy. The boy's in the middle. He's a little bit taller than me, and he's on that volleyball scholarship at George Mason University. So they got a game at 7 tonight, and we're able to watch it on ESPN Plus. And then we're going to go up there the weekend of March 24th to 27th. We're going to go up and watch 2 matches that are scheduled that weekend. Those are the only travel plans we have. But we're kind of looking forward to that. It's fun watching those games.
You're not going to watch the Purdue game tonight?
Well, I'm taping it. I'll have to watch
Okay.
tomorrow because I'm going to watch the volleyball. They're on at the same time.
Yeah, I
7
know.
o'clock Eastern, yeah. But in that,
Where's Purdue in the rankings now?
Three.
They're
Third,
number
but
3.
I think it's going to be second because Kansas lost the other day.
or did they?
So
Okay.
I think Purdue will move up to second.
If they win.
At Michigan State.
That was a big event in our family. Half of Melanie's family go to Kansas. Half of them go to Kansas State. I had a kid to Kansas, to Kansas State. So it was really an important game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ernie, did your place get completely restored, or are they still working on it?
Still got a lot of work to do, but the building itself is restored. But the landscape, I shouldn't say completely. There's some roof issues that still need to be addressed. But the landscaping was just all wiped out. It's going to take months to get that back to. Even then, it won't be back to what it was. It was destroyed. Swimming pool, they're going to try to get it back by the end of April. But
Evidently the elevators are working.
I'm sorry, what?
Evidently the elevators are working.
Yeah. The elevators, they got those working pretty quickly. We were going to go down in the middle of October, but they asked the residents, there's 120 units in our building, and they asked people, don't come back until after the first of the year because we have a small staff and they had a lot of work to do. So we decided to honor that and just first time in years we haven't been down here in the fall or in, November. But anyway, if you look out our front window at the beach is fully restored and looks great. And if you look out our front windows up the beach, it looks like nothing happened.
Didn't Canfield lose his house there?
Completely. It was completely destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah, both cars were.
Where was he?
Yeah.
What city was he in?
Naples.
Naples. His home is about 2 blocks from the Gulf.
How much damage went back in the area of the bay where where Dora had his place?
Well,
The surge would have gone back that far.
it turned out this hurricane was very different than other ones. It turned out that if you got even a half-mile in, there wasn't too much damage. A mile in, there was even less damage. But in that first half mile, it was significant. Like Bill Canfield's house being completely destroyed. And there was a boat floating down Fifth Avenue in Naples. There were videos of a boat floating down because there was so much water on Fifth Avenue.
Yep.
What's Bill gonna do? Is he gonna rebuild?
He is not. He is not. Somebody looked on Zillow and saw that on Zillow, the price of his place was 9.1 million. So the value is really in the dirt and where it's located. So he decided not to. He'll sell the lot, and probably I think he's not coming down this season. He's got some health issues, but if he comes down, he'll just rent, is my speculation.
Hey guys, I gotta run. Good to talk to y'all.
Oh, Hammy, before you run, I didn't call on you. I didn't see your face. Give us.
Oh, yeah, I'm hidden.
give
Yeah,
us
I'll run a quick run by you then.
Yeah.
We had we're doing well. Spent 2 weeks over Christmas with my entire family in Puerto Vallarta, which worked out great because we missed all the cold weather up here. And so we're coming back, going to do playing a little croquet down in Florida, and then other than that, that's about all we got going on.
Where in Florida?
We're going down to West Palm Beach National Croquet Center.
Oh,
And so we were down there for a tournament in the fall, and it's a pretty neat facility. So we'll be down there for a few days, and that's the only plans for right now. But my wife has her way. We'll be traveling somewhere shortly. So
Hey, well, thanks for joining us.
okay, you guys be good. Talk to you later.
Okay,
Yeah.
God bless you.
Bye. Hammy.
Yep. Bye bye.
Yeah, I was going by faces and I missed him. Okay, anybody else got anything for the good of the order?
No, I'll keep you informed on George. I'll see him next week.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Pete. It's been
Yeah,
see
that's
you.
very nice of you, Pete.
And
Yep.
thanks for keeping us all posted, yeah. Okay,
All I'm signing off. Been good to talk to you as always.
great being with you guys.
Good to see everybody.
Take
Good
care.
health.
All the best.
God bless.
Adios.
Yep.